that don't show their video, you could still see if they're actually answering the questions and engaging in your lesson. If they're not, then, you know, you take the next steps of trying to get them to do that. But at least it gives you an option, so then the kids don't have to have their videos on and you could still see what they're doing. So with that, again, hopefully, let me see, hopefully my internet is going to hold on to, you know, and make it work. But what I want to do is I'm going to walk you through how I take a Google slide presentation and change it into Peardeck. And then I'm going to have you guys try the Peardeck activity I make, so then you can see from the student perspective. And that's when you're probably going to have some questions for me, because you can actually see it in action and you're going to, you know, think about how would that work in your class. So the reason why I'm in Rock Connect is because I'm going to go to the math website where I'm going to find a presentation. If you're not aware, algebra and geometry, Liz Helbig and Caleb Paco have been creating lessons for those courses. So they're already there. They're great presentations. You could use them as is, or, you know, modify if needed. So I'm going to just take one of theirs. So I'm going to go into my Rock Connect and I'm going to go to Instructional Toolkit. This is just a reminder of how to get to the math website. And then when you go to home, you're going to click on mathematics. If you haven't bookmarked the site, I would highly recommend that you do that, because it has so much resources and information, and they're constantly updating it. But I'm going to go to grade 9 through 12, and then I'm going to go to algebra region score. So again, algebra and geometry for sure have presentations, Google slide presentations. I can't say for sure about other upper grades. So I'm going to go to algebra, and right here, these weeks, specifically starting with week 5 to week 8, you see how it says teacher slides included. Can you guys hear me? Because I just got a note saying that my internet is unstable. All right, so so I'm going to click on week 8. And I'm just going to get one of the slide presentations that they already have. They've broken it down by dates, which is really neat. I'm just going to take the first one. This doesn't look like it's a link. It's like an image, but if you click on it, you'll pop up with a link. So I'm literally just taking their presentation. Obviously, you'd want to look at it first and, you know, see what you need to edit or whatever, but I'm just going to take theirs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of it, because, I mean, I have the shared folder, but I don't want to modify anything that they've done. So we're going to click make a copy, entire presentation, right? Put it where you want. I usually just put it in my drive if you have a folder that you want to put it in. And this is where my internet might be slow. It's thinking. Okay. If not, I'll just put it in this folder for now. Just make a copy. Okay. I'm just going to make a copy and just do it in this folder. I'll move the date. Should have made a copy beforehand. So if people came in late, I'm on my hotspot right now in my RV because my internet went out, and so did my power, of course, right beforehand. But that happened. All right, so this is my presentation. And so if you've never done, you're going to click on add-ons. And then if you don't see the Peardeck add-on, you would just click get add-ons. And then you would search for the Peardeck add-on and it should appear. Probably shouldn't have clicked on that because it's going to take forever. There it is, right? So in my case, I have the add-on. Now I also have this Peardeck with a pair. This is an extension. You don't necessarily need it to have Peardeck work. The reason why I got the extension, and all teachers can get it, we opened it up for you guys. Well, extensions are open anyways for you guys. But the extension is nice if you put some GIFs. If you make things a little bit more interactive for the kids, the GIFs will show up. If you embed a video, the video will show up. If not, it will be all very static. You can still share the videos with a website link, but you can't necessarily just see it in there. So I like to get the extension as well. And then it will show up over here. I just have it hidden. I don't have it pinned, and it'll just come up right here. So now that I have my add-on, and if you want to get the extension, I can click on add-on Peardeck and open Peardeck add-on. And what you'll get is a bar on the right side. And this is how you're going to create interactive pages and then also start your lesson. So on this slide, you notice is just text. There's nothing I want the kids to do, so I'm not going to put anything Peardeck on it, and that's okay. Now in this case, you know, a quick check-in, and it says here, write in the chat, how are you feeling? But I don't need to have them write in the chat at all. I can have them actually write right in Peardeck. So I'm going to, because it's a Google slide, I'm going to erase this piece and just leave the question, because I don't want them to write in the chat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose text, because what's going to happen is I'm going to get, when the kids log in, and you'll see it from your end in a little bit, you'll be able to, the students will be able to see the slide, and then they're also going to see the text where they can type. So I'm going to just do that and watch what happens. It's going to give it a second. Faster internet goes faster. But it's all it did was it put a bar, basically letting you as a teacher know that this is a Peardeck slide. It is given an opportunity for students to write a response. And you can try to hide it by ordering it to the back, and you might be able to hide it, but do not delete it. If you delete, then the Peardeck won't work. You can delete it because you're like, I don't want it anymore. But in order for the student to be able to type on here with Peardeck, you're going to need to have a Peardeck question. So I'm going to put the text back in. Right here is a learning target, and in it, I think Liz wanted people to type right in the boxes. So you could give it a text, but the problem with the text is you're only given one box to type in. If I want students just to type right on this page, I can click and use the draw feature. The draw feature does a couple things. It lets kids draw on the slide, but it also, using the text box, the students can type. They could also highlight. So this is probably the one that math teachers use most often when you want students to graph or, you know, do anything freehand or type. So then you have this slide right here. Again, same thing. I want kids to fill these numbers in. So I'm just going to do a draw, and you'll see most of these are going to be draw slides. But there are others. I think there is a multiple choice question in there, so I can do a multiple choice. There's websites. You could add websites, things like that.
Okay.
So in this one, yeah.
Okay, so with this, when you make this and you have a draw feature or a text feature, is this taking them to another site to put the information on? Or well, my question is, the question from there would be, if that's the case, can students always be able to go back if they go into their slides and go back to see what they wrote in the Peardeck?
Yes and no. So there's a couple of variations. If you end the session, then no, they can't go back to the slides. You would have to leave the session and let it keep running and make it student like student pace instead of teacher pace. So you can go from teacher pace to student or from student to teacher. So you just let them do it. But you also can create what's called takeaways. After the kids have completed this presentation, you can create takeaways for each one of your students individually. So what happens is you create a Google, the program creates a Google folder with all the Google takeaways. Like I don't know what they're converted. I think they're converted into a docs. And what it shows is it shows all the slides, what the kids have written, and any feedback that you've given them while they're working on it. And then each student will have their own individual takeaway that's shared with them, but also they can see it by clicking on the link in the Google Classroom if you share it that way. So that's another way to get the information, is in the takeaways. So in this one, really quickly, I'm just gonna add text because it's asking one question. And so basically that's kind of what I'm doing. Again, there's one question here. They don't need a text box, so I can actually delete this so the kids don't get confused and add text. If I want them to write on here, then I could use the draw. So that's the difference between the two. So if I want students to show their work, you know, maybe using a table or kind of annotate, then I'm going to use the draw feature. They can use text in there too. They can type in there as well. But if they need to use the draw feature at all. Okay, right here, it says, which of the following function rules gives Angelica account balance? So it's looking like there's an answer or maybe multiple answers in here. So I think this one actually shows multiple answers. So the choice might not be good. Okay, Tyler. No, go away. My son, I'm sorry. So you can, so in this case, like you could do one of two things. Because I wanted students to choose multiple answers, you probably choose one answer. So let's say I get rid of this one, for instance, even because that was one of the answers. I could use something like multiple choice. And the choices are A, B, C, D. So I'll put A, B, C, D, just so you guys could kind of see little differences and like what those look like. But those are great for like multiple choice or even like polling, because notice I'm not saying what's right or wrong here. The kids are, you know, you're going to have that conversation with the students, but you can show students the responses that all the kids wrote. So then you can talk about it. Hey, you know, 50% of our the kids chose A. Let's talk about that. You know, why did we choose A? And is that the correct answer? And then again, same thing here. So I'm just gonna really quickly just get rid of this because you tapped 2 slides just to be consistent with the presentation. So in this one, again, the question is you want them to type. Because it's one question, you could do the text or the drawing. If you want them to graph, that would be the drawing feature as well. This one actually, now that I think about it, let me see if I can go back for a second. I thought about this even better. Instead of doing this as a multiple choice, I think the draggable would be really cool because we know that there's 2 answers. So what we can do is I can actually make that you can take and put an icon. So maybe I want a yellow icon and maybe I want a thumbs up, and I don't know, it doesn't need to be that big, right? And then I'm going to add another thumbs up, and then I'm going to have you guys move the thumbs to the correct choices. So then you can say something like, you could say, use the thumbs, like just give directions, like use the thumbs, to choose the correct two choices, move the thumbs to the correct choices, something like that. Okay. And then, okay, so then this one, again, I'm just going to get rid of this really quickly. So you notice, like, it really doesn't take a lot of time to create this. If you have a slide presentation, it's pretty quick. Like, I can do this really in 5 to 10 minutes because I already have the slide. I'm just adding the pieces to it. Like, it really doesn't take a long time. The biggest thing I think is the more you start using it, the more you start redoing your slides to make it really work for Peardeck, because sometimes it's better than others. Here's a multiple
And
choice
you said we can
question.
only do
So in this
one
one,
thing per page?
yeah. So if you want multiple items, that's when you would use the draw feature, because in the drawing, you'll have the whole slide and you can do anything on that slide. You can mark it up, you can graph if you want to, write with your pen, or you can do text. Where in these cases, like this exit ticket, you would do one per page because you want the responses to come in. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever used clickers. Clickers were kind of the same way, where it was like one page had a different problem, like a smart notebook. I don't know if you've ever used it.
Oh, nightmare.
So this one is a choice. This one is a choice. So this one I'm going to use multiple choice, and that's good because then you have multiple choices. You don't have to type up what the choices are, which is kind of nice, because you will have the students will see both the slide and the choices to pick. So that's kind of neat. So that's pretty much what Peardeck is in terms of adding tools to it. There's other couple things you can add. You can add audio to slides. So this is great if there's a lot of content that you want kids to read. So this is for differentiation. They can actually listen to the content. So that's really good, especially if you're going to take the slide and make it asynchronous. So the kids start with you, but then you continue on and make it student driven. So the students keep working on it. You would want to add these audio slides. They're pretty easy. The only problem is you have to type this up somewhere else or have another window, because when you add an audio slide, you'll see it covers everything up. And so I'm like, well, what am I supposed to say? Because I want to see the slide. So you might want to have another window open with a slide to read it. So then it records, but it's pretty easy. You record it and then it just pops in there for students. The other thing I just quickly wanted to show was the template library. There's a bunch of different templates and they're all slides. So if beginning of the lesson, and notice it's taking a little bit of time to load, but you can pick different things. And what they will do is they will add it to your slide, and then you could edit them just like any Google slides. You know how I'm adding right here, I could edit the same thing. There's also some math ones, which are pretty neat. Some templates. So here's a template for multiple choice. If you want to put your multiple choice in here and then put the choices. If you do which one doesn't belong, great routine. Here's a graphing one where you would just put the graphing problem. If you want, you don't need to, you can create it right on your slides. But these are just some templates if you want to get started. So sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm done. I'm going to close this out. Now, just because I put these bars on the Peardeck does not mean the kids can write on these pages. Not yet. I have to actually start the activity in Peardeck. But what I can do right now is I can share it with all of you guys. So I can share the slide presentation with you as teachers in my department or my grade level, and then you guys can use it with students, so you don't have to put in Peardeck elements anymore because I already did it for you. Now you might change things, just like you saw me do. You can get rid of the bar if you're like, I don't want this. I don't want a text here. I want them to draw here. Okay. You can change that. Or maybe you don't want the whole slide. You just delete the slide, right? You can edit it. But in order for me to start Peardeck with you, like you guys are my students, I have to go back to the Peardeck add-on. So, and the reason why I go back is because I need that bar. Sometimes you just close it accidentally. I do that all the time. You can just always go back by clicking add-on. And now I'm going to start my lesson. And I'm going to click start lesson. And it's going to give me two options. I can start with student pace, or I can start with instructor pace. If you're doing synchronous instruction, so in Zoom, you'd want to do instructor pace, but you can go back and forth. You could always change this later. So, you know, whatever you start. So I'm going to start with the instructor pace. And this is how I would start my lesson in Zoom. Okay, now it's asking me to log into my account. Not quite sure why. Probably because I'm on my hotspot. Okay. So usually that doesn't happen because I'm already logged in. That was weird. So it's going to launch a presentation. And so now you have to share this presentation with your students. So I can do it one of two ways. I can get kids on Zoom, and then I'm going to tell them, I want you to open a new tab, go to joinpd.com and put in this code, which is 6 letters. They're unique every time you start a lesson. I could also give students a link. I could click on get link copy to clipboard, and this link I could put in the chat, or I can invite a class from Google Classroom. So it's up to you the way you do it. For us, if I would love for you guys to try this. So if you can open a new tab or a new window and go to joinpd.com and then put in this code. You could also do this on your phone if you want to check out what that looks like on the phone as well. And if you go back to my screen, I can see that no students are connected right now. So I can see that no one's connected. So I'm going to wait and make sure that you guys are all connected to my session. Now, while you're doing that, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and I'm going to share again. This time I'm going to share my desktop instead of my screen. Now, when you're doing Peardeck with your students, you definitely want to share the window, which is this window right here, not the desktop. The reason why is because on the desktop, while you're sharing your screen, you get another window that pops up. This is my teacher dashboard. There's a little bit difference between this screen and the other one that pops up. And the difference is here, I can see students' work, but it's anonymous. And so this is really good when you're working with kids, right? Because I can, and you'll see, I'm gonna pause you guys in certain spots and have you go to my window so you can see results so we can talk about them. But all of them are anonymous. So it's nice because you're not calling any kids out. But on this dashboard, I can actually see the responses that each student has done, and I could give each individual student feedback. So this one is nice to keep. If you're using multiple screens, I would put that one on the multiple screen. Or again, this is just, you know, when you're sharing your screen, don't do the desktop. The reason why I'm doing the desktop so you can see that I have this other screen, but you wouldn't want that with the students. You would just share the window. So I see 10 students. I cannot tell who the students are on this screen, but if you go here, I can see, so do you see this? This is my teacher dashboard. I can see how many students are there, and I can click and see who has joined. Do you see that? So I can see exactly who has joined and what the mood is from the students. Okay. I'm actually gonna go to this page.
All right, I got to join PD.com.
Also, when you start, yep. So now you need the code, right? Oh, you need the code.
Where do I connect
So it's
the code to?
joinpd.com.
Yeah, I just have a purple link. It says about programs, donate, needs, volunteer, and
No. Join. It's joinpd.com. It's gonna look like this.
oh, okay.
Joinpd.com. And
Okay.
then it's going to ask you for the code. And what's nice doing the presentation, the code is always right here. So if students come in late, you don't have to, I can click on this anytime and it pops up, but the students can join anytime with this code. So now I'm going to go through the lesson with you. Now, while I'm doing this lesson with you, I actually do want you to work on your window, not mine. So in this case, I want you to do a quick check-in and I want you to type in, how are you feeling today? And notice what it looks like. So you can kind of see, this is the text feature that I added, right? So you can see on one side, you see the information, and on the other side, you get a text box that you type in. So that's the text box. I can see that right now, 9 out of 14 people have typed something in. So then again, on this page, I'm going to lock so 11 people now. Yeah. On my page that I'm sharing with students, I can't see who the students are that haven't done it. But on my page right here, the one that I just opened up, this is my teacher dashboard, I can see who wrote it and what they wrote, okay? And then you also get that smiley face to know how they were feeling in the beginning when they started the presentation. So this is just great social and emotional, like someone might be having a really bad day, you know, obviously don't be as hard on them for, you know, in that case. I could also leave them feedback, right here, and I'll work on that in a second. I could also lock your screens. What happens on your screen right now? What happened when you're on your screen?
My
What does
answer
it
was
say?
locked.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a great feature when you want kids to look at your screen, because, you know, they'll be working on theirs, and then maybe you want them to look at your screen to show results. Like in this case, obviously I wouldn't show responses, but I can say show responses, and you can see all the responses that are written or in grid layout. You know, so this is great, like if you're asking kids a question and you want students to see everybody's responses, because when they type everything in individually, they can't. So what's nice is I lock the screen, and it's kind of like, you know, how we did in the classroom, sometimes turn lights on and off to give them a cue that we need their attention, or whatever the cue is that you use. So this is the cue to say, hey, I locked your screen. I want you guys to look at my screen right now. And then when I unlock the screen, you can go back to your screen again. So this is just a nice way to kind of keep getting kids focused on what you want. So here's one, I think this was the drawing one, right? So see if you can type into the boxes. So you're gonna use the text feature, and it doesn't really matter what you write. It doesn't have to be, unless you want to be perfectionist and actually write down what the rate of change or other names for that and the initial value. And then again, what I can do is I can show responses. And what I can do is I can do it in grid layout. Some people are trying to write. I can lock the screen so you guys could all look at it. What's really cool too is it is in real time. Now, some of you are trying to write and you have a very thick line, you can make the line skinnier. So see if you could figure out a way to make that line skinnier, because when it's skinnier, it's a little bit more fine to write and it'll be a little bit easier to see. Now, I would also say that when it comes to text, it is easier to type, and I would encourage the students to type these things. But when you're doing something like graphing, I think it's a lot easier to graph with a pen than using even shapes. So you can kind of play around with it. But I like how some of you figured out how to make the lines a little skinnier, and you could see that it makes it a little bit easier to read. Again, I could lock my screen and you can see here's the anonymous board that I can show, as well as an overlay, which overlays won't make sense, but think about graphing. Let's say you ask students to graph an equation and they all graph it. You can individually look at it, but then you can do what's called an overlay when the graphs all show up on one page. So you could really see if they're the same or not. Or if you're looking at specific things like you want the slope to be 3, graph me a line that has a slope of 3, right? And so then when they all graph it, they all should be parallel, correct? So like you can really quickly see what the lines look like, and then you could have those conversations with the students. So it's a pretty neat. And again, I didn't really do anything. I have my slide and I just added that question, but I think the things you can do with it are huge. In this case, this is similar. You're going to put numbers in. I'm just going to skip a couple so you can see a little bit more differences. Here is one with a thumb. See if you can do that one. And if you don't remember, if you want the right answer, I think this is the question. So let's go to this. It's $480 using a Best Buy store credit. So Angelica purchased a television for $480 using a Best Buy store credit. Suppose she pays the minimum monthly payment of $20 each month for the first 12 months. So then the question is, which of the following function rules gives Angelica's account balance A after M monthly payments have been made? Again, it's okay if you get it wrong, but it's kind of cool with this one. So again, I could see how many students are right now responding. I have 5 out of 16. If I look on my dashboard, I can see a little bit more. I can see who the students are that have responded and which ones have not. If you go back to my screen really quickly, you can see I have 6 that not responded, and they tell me the list of who they are, okay? And so with this one, I'm just gonna wait one more minute because I wanna see what everybody responds. F13, 3 more. 3 more people if you could respond. Doesn't matter if you get it right or wrong, it's okay. It's actually kind of cool if you get it wrong. But then what I can do is I could lock my screen, and then again, I could say, okay, I want you guys to look here. And then what I want to do is show responses. Now, no one really wants to see the responses individually. My internet's a little slow. But if it lets me, the overlay here is pretty cool, because then you could see what people have chosen. So you can see no one chose B, so that's good. Majority of the kids chose B, or the 5th one, right? And then the 3rd one. But there are a couple people that chose A and D. So this is definitely something that we need to have a conversation about. And maybe we can talk about it. You know, who chose C? Can you explain to us why you chose C? You know, so we could talk about it. Then, you know, and then have those conversations. You could also, after this, if you spend a little bit more time on it, I could add a new prompt and actually pause, you know, and give students maybe something like a quick question or something for them to do. Now, the unfortunate part is these are pre-created. I can't modify them, but I can, you know, if I want to say, you know, draw me a picture of what that looks like, I can add it to it. So I could always add a slide to that. So I'm going to unlock my screen. And just one more. So here, if you want to try practicing graphing, I know this one you're not necessarily being asked to graph, but see if you can graph using the drawing tool. Again, play around with the thickness of it. The thicker it is, a little bit harder it is. But then again, with circles, I think the thicker the line, the easier, because it's literally just dots. With a straight line, you might have a little difficulty. You might want to make it thinner. But see if you could play around with that. And then again, I could see the responses, and right, the lines, I mean, the line's already graphed, so it's going to look something different, but you can see what kind of also the ease of it. I mean, is it perfect? No, it's not. It's no, of course, it's not going to be perfect like using a pen or a pencil on a paper. But this is a great option, especially when you're already using slides, if you are, because then you don't have to. I mean, I love Jamboard, but yet it's another tool, right? TeacherMate, it's another tool. We're here, I'm in slides. I already did slides. I just added little elements to it. And all these things that you guys are typing, I will have access to. I can go back and I can look at the results in each of the lessons. So then if I have a child who's struggling, or maybe, you know, a child that's not doing the work, I have evidence to show that. I say, hey, look, I had 16 kids today, and your son was one that just didn't do anything. Here's all my slides. Nothing happened. You know, here's the takeaway. So, you know, what can we do to get him more motivated to work? And then let me just go to the multiple choice so you can see that one really quickly. And so that one you'll see again on one side, the multiple choice shows up, right? Like the question. So you can just literally put, like, take a screenshot of some of those questions that you have, like Regents questions or something. And then on that one side, you'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, and they click on it. So I have one person that responded, if you can just pick any answer, again, it doesn't matter what the answer is. So I can just show you, I want to show you what that looks like from the teacher perspective. So if you can pick, so I can get more answers.
When it's teacher led, that means that you have control of the slides.
Exactly. So when I move from one slide to the other, you are moving from one slide to the other. Exactly. That's called teacher led. And I'll show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was, so if you're in an ICOT class and you have a teacher that goes into a different room with the student, you couldn't separate this.
The only way to separate it is to give the teacher a copy of this presentation, the co-teacher, and let the co-teacher drive it like you are driving it. They would share their screen, they would put their code in, join PD, like they would start their own, you know, so it'd be 2 separate sessions.
So
And that way they can grade their own, because the problem right now is the co-teachers is a problem in Peardeck. We have asked, and I know a lot of other schools and teachers have asked, so they're working on figuring out a solution, but there isn't one yet.
So, okay, so like if you were in the middle of the lesson and realize that a student is really falling far behind, you couldn't go from there to a breakout room. You'd have to start from the beginning all over again.
Not necessarily. I mean, so there is, it's not necessarily differentiated. You have to do one or the other. So right now it's teacher pace. I can change it to student pace, where then students are all at different pages, but they're all doing student pace. Like I can't, right now, I can't say 10 of you are going to be teacher led, 10 of you are going to be student led. It's going to be either one or the other, unless you have multiple presentations and running them simultaneously.
Okay.
So great question though. So I'm going to lock my screen here. And again, what I want to do, and again, locking screen is great because it's getting kids to understand that I want your attention on me right now. So I want you to look at my screen that I'm sharing, not your screen, right? Because I locked your screen. But what I can do is I can show responses. And this is just pretty cool. Again, pretty neat to see. And you could have those conversations about the problem. So you know, if majority of the kids got it right, you can move on. The kids got it. They walked out of it. This is the last, the last question at the end. So I can see, all right, majority got it. Maybe there's 2 that struggled with it, or 3. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look after the class, maybe I'm going to look at the responses and I'm going to actually see who the students are that got it wrong. And maybe I'll either connect with them, maybe the next day when students are working at their own pace on a lesson, I'm going to do a little bit more direct instruction with them in Zoom. So this is a nice way to differentiate the instruction.
Okay, so I don't know. So having this on one screen is like, once you lock it, the students have to know that they have to minimize their screen in order to get back to you.
Well, it's kind of like anything else. If you want them to go to Jamboard or you want them to go to TeacherMate, I mean, they're just going to have to get savvy with multiple screens. Yeah.
True.
But at least the locking, what I like about it is you don't have to be like, are you looking at me? You know what I mean? Like you're locking it. It's kind of like, it gives them a kind of that hint of, okay, I need you to look here. I mean, is it perfect? No, until we're physically face to face, it's kind of hard. But I do like the locking idea. And then, so I'm going to actually, if you guys continue to look at my screen so I can show you. So then when we're done with this lesson, again, I could do a couple of things. When I click on the 3 dots, well, I could end the lesson. And if I end the lesson, that's it, we're done. I can go back and reopen it if I need to. But what I can do also, instead of ending the session, I can turn on a student pace. And what that means is now you guys can move freely from one slide to the other. And I think on the left, you should be able to now see arrows. And you could go ahead, like on your pages, you can move from one slide to the other. And on my teacher dashboard, I can see where students are. So I can see that 14 of them are on the first page. I can see one of them is on page 6. And I could see who the students are that are hopping around and where they are. And I could also see the responses of what the students have written or have not written down. I can see which students have done the work, which ones joined, which one left. So you can really see all the students and what everybody's doing. I could also at this time leave the session, and leaving the session means that I'm gonna, that link or the join code, or if you put the link in Google Classroom, the kids can go back to it. So they can close all their stuff and then go, because they logged in through their Google account, they can go back, click on the link and go back to this presentation and continue to put information in that you wanted them to, that maybe they didn't have a chance. So that's what it means when you leave the session, that it's opened, and then you can continue to monitor what the kids are doing outside of face-to-face time. So that's kind of neat. And when you're ready to totally end the session, you can do that as well. So right now I'm going to just leave the session, and you're going to notice again, you'll be able to continue working on it. Now, let's say I go back, and of course I totally closed my presentation, but if I go to my drive.
So Elaine, I got a question real quick.
Yeah.
When you turn it to student pace, does that mean they all have their own copy? And then, I don't know.
Well, yes and no. I guess you could say that. I mean, either way, they have their own copy, right? It's every kid that's logging in has their own presentation that they're working through. Yes. But it doesn't matter if it's teacher or student led, right? Like it's still the same thing. The difference is with teacher led, I, as a teacher, am facilitating and moving the slides. So I'm moving to slide 2, everybody moves to slide 2.
Right.
I pause the window, everybody's window is paused.
Right, but so if it's on student view, they could close it and go back, like you said, and go asynchronously, go back to another time and work on their work.
Yes. Yeah, so the only thing is you just need to that link right in the beginning. You either have to go in Google Classroom and tell them, go to join PD and use that code, because that code will work until you end the session. So because you left the session, it still will work. Or you can give them that direct link that I showed you when you start the session. That's another option, is give them the direct link. And they could just click on that link anytime, and until you, now when you end the session, when they click on the link, it'll say, you know, I don't remember exactly what it says, but it says something like this, the session has been ended. But if you just left it, then yes, you could click on the link and access it. I just wanted to quickly just show you before I answer any other questions. So I went back to my presentation, I closed everything out, and I'm like, I want to go back and see what the kids have been doing, right? But everything is closed out. So this is the presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Peardeck again. This is the way I go. There's probably multiple other ways, but and then instead of starting my lesson, I'm going to go to these 3 lines and I'm going to review sessions. This is going to go to the Peardeck app. It's a website, and you'll see all my sessions from 30 days. After that, they're archived, they're not deleted, they're just moved to a different folder, so you can still see all the activities and everything that's been created. So, and then here's all my slides. So you can see here's my student pace, because I changed it to student pace. And I can go back and look at, first of all, I could turn off the student pace here, end it. I can go back and look at the presentation and look and see what the kids have been doing. So here I am back. I can see where the kids are, what they've done. And then I could also, after I end session, I can create takeaways. Sometimes they say takeaways take a long time though, which has been driving me crazy. So I'm not going to try because I don't have very good internet right now. But like this one is closed. So I can go to 3 dots and I can create takeaways. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about takeaways, when you're on this page and you go to help, you can type in, you know, what you want, but you can type in takeaways and it'll tell you a little bit more about what that is, what it looks like. There's a video guide, quick facts, where the things are stored in the drive, what it looks like, and it becomes a Google Doc. So you can give feedback. You can see this is what it kind of looks like with the takeaways. You have the slide and then what the student response is. So it's pretty cool. And then you can give feedback because it's a Google Doc. You could do it right in there. And then students have then those, you know, those takeaways and the feedback, kind of like their presentation and what they wrote. So, questions? No questions? I answered all of them.
Glenn, I'm just curious. I'm really liking poll features. Now, your multiple choice that we did, that looked like a poll to me without calling it a poll.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
could have used that option as a poll.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it doesn't give an option to give an answer anyways. Yeah, so, and you can choose as many choices as you want. So you can absolutely use it. You do it for true, false, agree, disagree, which one doesn't belong. Absolutely. Can definitely be used for a lot of different variety of ways.
Gotcha. No, I was recording this, so it didn't let me close my screen to play with it. I was curious, those of you that graphed, what did you think? That played with the graph. Did you like it any better than what we were using, or just curious?
The easier part for me with the graphing was the fact that I was able to make points easier. Right now, I am just making points on a slide for the kids to drag, and if they drag it wrong, then they get these really big ovals. I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence about this.
In Teacher Made, you got to do the back button all the time. And it only undoes the last action that you just did. I like that there's an eraser. And
Yeah, I mean, for students, you don't have to do the back button to erase in TeacherMate. For students, what you would do, it's kind of like similar to Smart in a sense, like it doesn't have an eraser, but you have to use the select tool, the arrow tool, and then you select what you don't want and then use the trash can to delete it. So you can do that from the student perspective in TeacherMate. So they don't have to go in sequence to delete things.
sometimes it deletes the whole thing, though. It deletes everything, and then you lost it all. But you just got to be careful what's highlighted, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not perfect.
Oh.
But this one is better because this one does have an erase tool, right? And it erases anything you want. It's kind of similar to Smart, right? Did you play with this one on that? Yeah.
I feel like it has a lot more options of getting the kids to discuss, especially work that they've just done. Like you said, when you freeze your frame, you can like discuss like you would in class more easily than you can with the other apps.
Yeah, and you can see in real time, you know, even with a slide presentation, it's a little bit harder. You have to dig deeper to figure out which kids have not started the presentation. Here, it just very quickly, I can see who the 3 kids are that haven't done anything. We're on slide 4, and I have 15 kids, and 10 of them have written something, 5 didn't. It'll tell me that. So just even like that big brother view, it definitely has a little bit more than just slides. Not that I don't love slides. I love, like, there's certain things that Peardeck doesn't do, like sorting activities. It's okay to do like matching because you could use draw, like, you know, kind of arrows to say this one goes with this one goes with that. But it doesn't, you can't sort anything because you can't move things. Everything is static other than the questions you put in. So the only thing you can move are those symbols that I created when I asked you guys to choose the 2 answers for multiple choice. But so nothing's perfect, but I thought, you know, I think it has a lot of potential, especially with us continuing to be remote and you guys using slides, if you're using slides for your instruction.
Yeah, I'm just, the one other thing that bothers me is the fact that if I close it, then the students can't go back to see what their responses are, or, right?
So again, yeah, if you leave the session, they can go back. If you close it, it's done, and you would just have to publish the takeaways, and then they will get their own document that will have the slides and then what they wrote, a slide and what they wrote. So they'll have evidence of all the work that way.
Okay.
That what you said, that was a takeaway, right?
Yeah, those are called takeaways. You could only publish takeaways after you end the session. So when you leave the session and you still have it open, you can't publish the takeaways because the kids can still, in a sense, what it's saying is the kids can still go back and edit and modify anything they want. When it's final and you end it, you move on to the next lesson. That's when you can publish takeaways. So then kids could see if they need to remind themselves of what they did.
so another question, sorry. You cannot, but you gotta give them a link in Google Classroom to go to the Peardeck. It's not like you're assigning, you know, your presentation to each kid because they're joining your presentation, and then it's housed in their website, right? In their site.
Correct. So, well, yes, yeah, in a sense. Yes. So if you click on the share button right here, and I get this link, if I give this to my students, they'll have my presentation. So you can give them the presentation, but they cannot write on it other than if they use the text features. Like, they're not doing anything with Peardeck. They'll have the slides that have Peardeck components in there, but they can't do anything with them unless you click start lesson. But remember, when you start the lesson, you can get that link to them. You know, and then it asks you, do you want to start the session or continue the class? But you can get the link. right here, right? You can give students this link, and then you could put that in Google Classroom that they could access. And that was kind of neat how I asked if I wanted to start a new session. So like if you have another algebra, so you don't have to make a copy of the presentation, you just start another session. Or you can go back to the same sessions that you were at. So that's kind of neat too.
Yelena, there was a question in chat about using the takeaways for async. So if you went from instructor mode to student paced, are they allowed to now work without you being there?
Correct.
So they'll still be finishing a couple of homework problems, even though it's outside of class.
Correct.
And see them in the takeaway.
You're going to see them in the takeaway after you end the session. Yes. Yeah, you'll see everything that they wrote in the takeaways. But you will see in your teacher dashboard, you'll see, so like at 9 p.m. you could go on and see if anybody's working on it right now. You know, you can still in the dashboard see which students have not completed some of the slides.
So are you allowed to end the session like 24 hours from now? Say your computer logs off, could it still be going or no?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have sessions that are open, I don't know. I just never close them.
Okay, so this is something they could extend to an asynchronous situation as long as you don't end the session.
Yeah, so here's my student pace. Like I have one from Sunday the 18th. It's still open. So if I gave you this link, you'll be able to go through it. If you have the link, yeah. Where like these ones are closed, but what's cool is I could reopen them. You know, I could reopen the session if I'm like, man, I want, you know, we did something with it, I closed it, but now I want to go back to it. I want kids to do some more work with it. I could reopen the session anytime. The only thing is in 30 days, the sessions are archived, but you can access them here and I could restore them. I can move them. So these are all my sessions that I've done before. I could restore them and put them back to the active role. And this is the paid feature. This is why we bought Peardeck, is because you can't see a lot of the analytics, a lot of the data without using the paid version.
Okay, Jacob, did I answer the question? I was hoping that.
Yeah, okay, so I just want to clear up how I understand this. So a session doesn't live on a tab on my computer, right? A session like lives on Peardeck, and I can like, my computer can be off, and this, if I leave the session open, and students can then work on this Peardeck. Is that
Yeah,
right?
correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. I want to make sure because I feel like what you were asking, the students can still be doing the couple problems at the end when you're not with them.
Exactly. If this is going to be an async tool, then I don't want to have another tab on my computer for each one of my different classes to keep Peardeck session open. I can just, it lives on Peardeck and they can access it if I open it and leave it open for them. Oh, that's fine.
Right. Yep, and then you close it out and it's still open. Yeah, so like these ones I don't have anywhere like physically open, but it's just a live session that the students can go back to and use. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's 3:02. So, Yelena, I know I only asked you from 2 to 3. So guys, I don't know if you can take another couple questions or if you need to go.
I can. I have 19% on my computer. So I can stay for a couple more minutes.
Okay.
And then my computer will probably die. Today's been one of those days. But yeah, if you have any questions.
Okay, so the other ones, if you don't have a question staying for the hour PD, you are welcome to go. Have a great day. If you're interested in the hour PD credit, then just hang out for a minute. Okay, any questions for Yelena?
The jury's still out. I'm still thinking about it.
I would say maybe play around with it, you know, just see what that looks like and see what, maybe try once with the kids and see what their feeling towards it is, you know.
Yeah, I really like the graphing piece. For some, I think I want to look at it myself, but I feel like the graphing piece looked a little smoother to me, even if we just use Peardeck when we wanted to graph. I don't know. Franny, what did you think of the graphing?
Okay, could you do in the Peardeck, could you do like with exponents, can you put that stuff in there? Do we have to worry about,
There's no equation editor, so you would have to have the kids type, write. Well, I don't know about the types. Did you try when you did the text? Did it, the text box, did it give you options? I don't remember.
is it still open? Okay, I'm on page 9.